Well, we're all back and working from home now, and you've turned in your uh, symbolic papers, and you have taken the symbolic quiz, and now we are ready to look at things we can do to begin our synthesis paper. And to understand that more fully, we've got an activity this week that's going to be looking at all of the 4 frames and along with your HRD issue and looking at the options for reframing through the lens of each of the 4 issues. So we've got 2 things that we're doing here, and that we're going to combine chapters 20 and 17. And our activity, although you probably will read chapter 17 first, that talks about leadership and reframing leadership, we're going to bring that into an example. And if you look at chapter 20, that's going to talk about a specific example in a school system. And we're going to use the exhibit from chapter 20, that school system exhibit, and we're going to draw or create a table, if you will, that will include reframe options looking at all 4 of the frames. And it will be much like our exhibit 20.1 from chapter 20. And that what you'll see there is reframing Robert F. Kennedy High School. And then secondly, our second piece of the activity for this week, week 13, is from that options chart that you're making, select one or more of the options to write a reframing leadership recommendation. And that's the same recommendation likely that you're going to use in your synthesis paper. Notice that this activity should help you to really, in many ways, have an outline to write your paper, your synthesis paper from. So let's take a look then at our, and let's see if I can get this. Okay, this is our reframe options chart, and this is just an example of what you might do. So we're going to look at the 4 frames: structural, HR, political, and symbolic. And in going to our right, then, we're going to ask the question, what's going on with our HRD issue in that frame? And so you've already done that. That's what all of our 4 different papers were about. So you can just go to those papers and say, what did I say was in the structural frame with regard to roles, responsibilities, and the other kinds of things that ground the structural frame? What's going on with my issues? Suppose my issue is communications. And we've got maybe something specific with communications in your particular organization. And so within the structural frame, what options are available to address that issue? And certainly we've got the roles and responsibilities that could be realigned, but what else do we have that we can identify, that we can actually do and make a leader? Then finally we're going to chapter 17, a leadership recommendation. And so you might say, well, we're going to move X to Y, and that might be an individual. So say a branch manager is going to move to a different branch, and that will address the communications issue or whatever issue you've got. Or perhaps it is going to be with your call center, and you're going to want to move the certain people so that they are, maybe you're going to, in a systems approach, going to have this group, X group of people, that are going to be in a different order now, because that will help the process run more smoothly in the structural frame. Okay, so now let's look at the HR frame, the human resources frame. We're talking about people, aren't we? And what their needs are. and what their benefits are. And maybe they need empowerments in order for, in our communications issue, for their voices to be heard, or to be heard in a particular way, or by particular individuals. Maybe they're stifled and we need to empower them. So what people changes do we need to make to allow X group of people, say our tellers or our call center folks, to be able to be empowered to bring attention to X and address the communication issue? So perhaps we're going to allow the agents to brief the manager on a weekly basis so that we've addressed that issue, or some other such leadership recommendation idea that you're going to put forward in your synthesis reframe. But first, we're going to offer this up in this simple chart. Doing the same thing with the political frame. Remember that we're talking about conflicts and we're talking about scarce resources. So, and we're talking about alliances is a possible option for addressing that, or reallocating scarce resources in a slightly different way. So here's a possible reframe leadership idea: to cross-train A and B so that they have shared resources that would address the scarce resources. We're going to make both of these two teams, A and B, work together so that they can share those scarce resources, and hopefully that fixes our HRD issue. The symbolic frame, which we just turned our paper into, might be symbols, might be a lack of symbols, might be rituals, might be ceremonies, might be stories. What's going on with our issue? It might be, in our organization, we just simply have a vanilla organization and we haven't really developed symbols that really call forth and identify our organization in the public's eye, and even for our own employees. So what are the options that are available? So what new stories? Who were the founders? Who were the people who historically really brought forth our organization and made the organization come alive? And how can we really hallmark those stories? What are the rituals that are there to share? And maybe we need a new mascot. Maybe we need colors that truly identify our organization. So what new ritual might we, in our leadership recommendation, what new ritual might we begin? Maybe it's an onboarding ritual. Maybe it's a ritual of award ceremony at a particular time in the year. Maybe it's a particular safety ritual, or identifying employees at certain times and calling their good work to be showcased. And maybe we're introducing new colors, and we've decided that we want a deep purple with khakis, and we're going to have that be kind of a jewel color that we're going to hallmark. We're going to have a special mascot that will have a royal cape that we're going to have call forth. Maybe this is a lion for something, and this is going to be our new mascot in our new colors, and we're going to make it real splashy to roll it out. So everyone's going to know, everyone's going to participate in our new symbolic frame and ritual. That's what we're going to do. That's our new leadership recommendation. So here's what we're going to do is create this chart, and that's going to be what we'll talk about in the forum. I can't wait to see yours.